Level 1. The applicant. It's a Wednesday afternoon in October, and you're sitting alone in a cafe in central London. A job posting on your phone appears to have been published by an accounting firm. Simple font, corporate language. A style that seems to say it all, yet is actually designed to mean nothing. Intelligence officer. Requirements: a college degree, British citizenship, and the ability to work in unpredictable environments. You read the phrase unpredictable environments twice in a row and almost burst out laughing. Because you know exactly what unpredictable work environments mean, and you know very well which organization this job posting belongs to. Moreover, the gap between the language used and the reality it describes is so vast that this understated statement serves as a recruitment test in and of itself. The person who can read between the lines is exactly the person they're looking for this job. You click the Apply button. The application form is longer than any form you filled out before, and some of the questions are so unusual that it takes a moment to understand them, not because they're inappropriate, but because they're so precisely crafted. They're the kind of questions designed to bring to light things the person isn't even aware of themselves. You submit your application on a Tuesday evening at 11:47 p.m., and the confirmation page simply states that your application is under review. 3 months go by. No email, no phone call, and no letter in the mail. You even check your spam folder 11 times. You begin to genuinely question your own memory of completing the application, the way you question a dream once it starts dissolving in the morning. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, the phone rings, and the voice on the other end belongs to a woman who controls her composure so flawlessly that it sounds as if she'd rehearsed the call. The composure of someone trained to display it like a professional instrument. She doesn't specify the organization she's calling. She doesn't say MI6. She's asking you questions. Where did you complete your education? Have you traveled outside the United Kingdom in the past 10 years? Do you speak any languages other than English? Have you ever used illegal drugs? Do you have relatives abroad? These questions are like drawing a map. Not a geographical map, but a map of you, your connections, your vulnerabilities, and your potential pressure points. The call lasts 40 minutes. She thanks you for your time and hangs up without telling you what happens next, which is itself informative. 2 weeks later, a letter arrives at your home. It's a plain white envelope. There's no logo or return address on it. It's the kind of envelope that could contain anything and therefore likely holds something important. Inside the letter, you're invited to an event in London described as an assessment day. You arrive at a building that could be any company office in any business park in any city in the UK. Beige carpet, plastic chairs, a water cooler humming at just the wrong frequency. 12 candidates sitting in rows. None of them are speaking, and they're all awkwardly performing the relaxation exercise, a situation that speaks volumes on its own. The first exam is a written test. It includes a scenario involving analytical reasoning and pattern recognition, in which you are given incomplete intelligence about a fictional country, and then asked to propose an action plan to the Secretary of State. You have 90 minutes. You write as fast as you can until your hand cramps up. The second part of the test is a group exercise. 4 strangers, a single fictional crisis, a British citizen taken hostage in a Middle Eastern country, limited resources, conflicting political priorities, and a clock ticking relentlessly, regardless of whether you've solved the previous test or not. They don't care about your answer. They care about how you act and think under pressure. Are you listening, or are you steamrolling over everything? Can you adapt instantly when the scenario changes? Or do you rigidly cling to a framework that's no longer valid? Can you find your way through conflicting information, or do you freeze when intelligence refuses to clarify? Observers sit in the corners with clipboards, never smile, and take notes at moments you'd never expect. That's the real issue. The third stage is the interview. 2 people sit on either side of the table. One asks questions, the other observes and analyzes your hands, posture, and unconscious micro-expressions, in short, your body language. They ask you why you want this job. You give the answer you thought of this morning while practicing in front of the bathroom mirror. A principled and measured response. Suddenly they cut you off. They ask again. Why do you really want this job? As the words roll off your tongue, something genuine suddenly emerges amid that moment's hesitation, and they take note of it. In fact, it is this hesitation they are after. A rehearsed response shows them that you've prepared it by thinking about yourself. Hesitation, however, reveals the truth about you. Next comes a comprehensive security and background check, DV clearance. It is the most extensive background check conducted by Western governments on their own citizens. In fact, the term comprehensive pales in comparison. Because while comprehensive implies crossing a single boundary, this involves the systematic removal of every barrier between your private life and the state's surveillance apparatus. They're scrutinizing your family, your siblings, your college roommates, your ex-partners. They're reviewing your financial records from the past decade and looking for specific patterns, not just the debts themselves, but the unique structure of the debt, the decisions that led to it and what those decisions reveal about your judgment and risk-taking tendencies. They talk to your neighbors. Even if you've never spoken to some of them, your neighbors describe you in terms you'll never hear, yet which will still shape decisions about your life. They scrutinize every country you've visited and every person you've interacted with there. They search for connections that a hostile intelligence service could use to turn you into something you don't want to be right now. This detailed review process takes 8 months. During those 8 months, you can't tell anyone you've applied. Not your parents, not your closest friend, not even the person sleeping next to you. You carry this secret with you through your everyday life for 8 months, and this secret begins to affect you. It starts to distance you from the fabric of ordinary conversations in ways you can sense but can't put into words. You're already learning distinction. You just don't have a word for it yet. Level 2. Trainee. You will be given a start date and a location. Fort Monkton is a military base near Gosport, on the south coast of England. Behind the barbed wire lie ancient stone walls and modern buildings, and beyond them all stretches the flat, gray expanse of the English Channel. Inside, a 6-month process awaits you. There are 18 people in your group. In the end, there will be 14 left. This training is called the Intelligence Officer Basic Training Course, and is organized under 3 main headings. The first of these is tradecraft. This term refers to skills that the agency uses, skills not found in any university curriculum and not learnable from any book, as these skills can only be acquired through physical practice in environments that closely mimic real-world conditions. You're learning the surveillance routes. You walk along pre-planned paths through the towns, noting down everyone you encounter more than once. The man you saw at the cafe this morning, now reading a newspaper on a bench. The woman in the blue coat who turned the same corner you did 3 streets back. You'll learn covert delivery methods. You'll learn how to leave a package at a specific location for an agent to pick up. During this process, neither of you can be seen in the same area at the same time, which requires more complex spatial and temporal coordination than it sounds. You're practicing brushstrokes, passing a USB drive to someone else in a crowded train station with such a fluid and swift motion that even a camera filming in slow motion couldn't capture the exchange. At 2 a.m., while a team of instructors disguised as enemy sentries tries to catch you, you learn to check unused mailboxes. If they spot you, you fail and have to start over. Because in the real mission, there's no second chance once you're spotted, and this training is designed to develop instincts that view being caught not as a mishap, but as an inevitable outcome. You're learning the stories of your secret identities. These aren't mere lies, but fully fledged alternative identities with deep, coherent backstories, robust enough to withstand hours of aggressive interrogation by individuals specially trained to expose inconsistencies in fabricated identities. You practice these in role-playing scenarios where trainers yell at you in foreign languages and deprive you of sleep and food, until the story of your secret identity begins to feel more realistic than your original background. That's the moment when this story works. The second key element is the selection and training of agents, the very reason for MI6's existence. You're not a spy in the sense that movies portray the role. You're the one who selects and trains spies. You'll learn the recruitment cycle, identifying a potential agent, assessing their access and motivation, building a relationship through a patient social engineering process that lasts for months and appears to an outsider as an ordinary friendship, and then presenting your offer. The offer is the moment when, looking a foreign national in the eye, you ask them to betray their own country on behalf of the British Crown and pass on information. You will learn about the 4 sources of motivation for recruiting informants. The most reliable but least interesting source is, of course, money. Ideology, which brings out the most committed actors, but becomes the most dangerous when it shifts direction. Coercion, which, despite being highly effective, creates actors who seek an escape route at the first opportunity. And ego, which, when used with sensitivity, is the most subtle and enduring. You practice recruitment techniques in the heart of Southampton, Portsmouth, and London. By approaching random people in cafes and hotel lobbies, you attempt to establish a genuine connection and obtain the other person's personal information without revealing any real details about your true identity. This is a continuous exercise in dual awareness that requires far more psychological effort than any written description could convey. Trainers evaluate everything: eye contact, how well you listen to the other person, whether you talk too much, whether you laugh at the wrong moments, or whether you notice the target's body language signaling discomfort. The third element is the ability to withstand interrogation and the hardships of torture. A hood is placed over your head. They force you into stress positions by pressing you against a wall in freezing cold. They play white noise for hours on end. They keep you awake for 72 hours, and then a man shouts contradictory questions from 15 centimeters away. Your task here is to stick to the story you've made up and not reveal anything about your mission or your colleagues. Some candidates give up before they can even last a few hours. Others, however, see this grueling psychological process through to the very end. No one leaves here the same person they were when they entered. After all, that is precisely the point. You graduate. There is no ceremony. An officer in the hallway shakes your hand. You are now a member of the Kingdom's Secret Intelligence Service. Level 3. A young officer. Your first posting is at the British Embassy in a country of strategic geographical importance, but one rarely mentioned in the evening news. Perhaps Central Asia, perhaps West Africa, or a small European capital situated right on the border, between NATO and Russia's spheres of influence, the kind of place where the Cold War never truly ended. Officially, you serve as the second secretary in the political section. You even have a diplomatic passport. You attend receptions and draft cables on local politics. But behind the scenes, you work for the station. Inside the embassy, in the MI6 office located behind a door that most standard embassy staff aren't authorized to open. Your task is, in fact, to identify individuals among the foreign nationals you encounter at official events, diplomatic dinners, cultural events, and in the social settings surrounding these events, that is, during moments when people are less guarded than they are at the table, who could be recruited as informants. A mid-level civil servant at the Ministry of Defense who drinks heavily at social gatherings and constantly complains about his salary. A scientist working at a state research institute who appears to be disillusioned with the government. A businessman with connections to supply chains who needs financing for a deal that banks in his own country are unwilling to support. Over the course of months, you build friendships with them, casual coffee chats that seem like chance encounters, invitations to embassy events. You remember their children's names, ask about their parents' health, and become the most attentive and thoughtful person in their lives. Pitching is when you look a foreign national in the eye and with the utmost seriousness, ask them to betray their own country on behalf of the British Crown. This offer must arise so naturally from your relationship that the target individual accepts it not as a request, but as something they have convinced themselves of through their own thoughts and logic without any coercion. It takes exactly 11 months to secure your first reliable informant, a colonel serving in an army following the collapse of the Soviet Union, with access to weapons procurement data and whose motivation stems from his ego, a man who believes his own government systematically disregards his analytical abilities. You give him a fake code name. You establish the protocols for your communication. Secret deliveries in a public park, encrypted messages sent through an app that masquerades as a gaming platform. You prepare your first CX report, and the report is sent to Vauxhall Cross, that odd green and cream-colored building on the south bank of the River Thames. Your station manager reads your CX report and then nods once. That single nod is the greatest praise you'll receive in return for nearly a year's worth of hard work, and you immediately realize that this is how the success of your service will be measured. Not a celebration, but the absence of criticism. In this world, that is considered the highest praise. Level 4. Senior Operations Officer. 3 missions completed. 9 years of service. You have deployed 14 agents across 4 countries. 2 of them were exposed, and 1 was captured by a hostile intelligence service and spent a full 6 years in a foreign prison cell. And you find yourself thinking about that 1 agent more than the 12 who survived. You question whether you pushed him hard enough during the final testing phases, and whether the intelligence he provided was worth the price he paid for it. These doubts constantly swirl in the background of your professional consciousness and occasionally surface at 3 in the morning, when your defenses are weakened and the house falls silent. One Tuesday evening, you meet with an agent in a hotel room in Vienna, and he hands you a USB drive containing the technical specifications of a centrifuge enrichment stage. The value of this data is greater than the total of all the salary you'll ever earn in your lifetime. You slip the USB drive into your jacket pocket and leave the hotel. Your hands are no longer trembling. By the fourth year, the tremors had subsided. Level 5. Station Chief. The very first morning you step into the embassy as Station Chief, the nature of the job around you changes completely. You're no longer just hiring staff, you're in command. There are 8 officers at your station, and you are responsible for every operation they carry out, every agent they manage, and every decision they make regarding acceptable risk. The country you've been assigned to is a challenging target. Its intelligence service is aggressive and technologically advanced. Your agents are being tracked from the moment they step out of the embassy building. Inside the embassy, there are listening devices that your technical team sets up each week using new configurations. Your marriage is slowly and quietly falling apart. This is a far more difficult situation than any dramatic scenario. Your spouse knows that you work for MI6 because spouses are provided with basic information during the security clearance process. However, knowing the facts about the job and understanding its covert operational aspects are 2 entirely different things. Your wife asks you if you're seeing anyone else, and you say no. But the truth is, being physically present in a marriage while being absent in every other way, to the point where you no longer have a real presence, is worse than being in a relationship at all. Level 6. Controller, Vauxhall Cross. 6th floor. You're sitting behind a desk overlooking the River Thames, and you're in charge of an entire district. Every station in your district reports to you. Every major operation requires your approval, and every critical intelligence report passes through your hands before reaching the chief. ACX report, prepared by an agent under your supervision, changes the Prime Minister's stance on the arms embargo. An intelligence operation you approved uncovers the first human source within an enemy ballistic missile program in 12 years. No one outside a circle small enough to fit into a single room will know about these 2 events. An agent is being arrested. The government agent who apprehended him is being shown on state television. The agent will spend 12 years in a concrete cell, and you approve the payments that generated the revenue leading to this arrest. You will bear the burden of this responsibility. This burden will be added to the others that have accumulated since the first year, and the weight of the burden will never lessen. Level 7. Deputy Director General. You are one of the 3 deputy directors. General of the Secret Intelligence Service. You sit at the same table as the director of MI5, the director of GCHQ, the chief of the General Staff, and the National Security Advisor. You brief the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs directly. From time to time, you brief the Prime Minister in a room on the lower level of Downing Street, with lead-lined walls and the phones turned off. This briefing is conducted in such precise language that it barely even sounds like English. It is a language of assessment, probability, and measured uncertainty, one that never says, "I know," but only "I assess." You never state definitively that you know something. You say that intelligence has obtained this information. Your body bears the marks of the past. Blood pressure medication. A sleep disorder that no doctor has been able to cure, because the cause is not biochemical, but rather related to information. Your mind holds a vast amount of hidden information that it constantly processes, and this process is most active at 3 a.m., when your waking defense mechanisms are relaxed. Level 8. Chief C. The letter is written in green ink. This tradition dates back to when the first chief, Mansfield Cumming, signed his correspondence with a single C in that color over a century ago. Since then, the tradition has been upheld by all chiefs, and now the green ink is yours. You are now at the helm of the British Secret Intelligence Service. You stand at the head of an organization with thousands of employees, hundreds of agents spread across every continent, and a global network of agents embedded within foreign governments, terrorist organizations, weapons programs, and criminal syndicates. The Americans are one of your most important allies. The CIA director is your closest counterpart, and the intelligence cooperation between SIS and the CIA is the most significant bilateral intelligence relationship in the world. You travel to Langley. You host their senior officials at Vauxhall Cross. The 2 sides do not share everything because even among the closest allies there are hidden barriers. Retirement is no salvation in this world. When you leave that world behind and transition to civilian life, the most significant experiences of the majority of your life become impossible to fully convey. No matter how much you write, your memories are so scrutinized and censored that only a shadow of what you actually lived through remains. Even though you are physically present at the breakfast table, your children, who have grown up with a parent who is effectively ignored in every way that true presence requires, will stop asking questions because they never receive answers to their questions, and this failure to answer has become a kind of permanent answer in its own right. On Thursday morning, you hand over your green ink to the person who will take your place. You shake their hand. You leave Vauxhall Cross for the last time and cross Vauxhall Bridge. London stretches out before you, boundless and indifferent. 8 million people go about their lives with not the faintest idea of what you've been doing for 30 years to keep them safe inside that strange building. That has always been the real goal. The work done remains unseen. The costs remain hidden. The successes achieved never make it into the newspapers or headlines. Only the failures make the news when they surface. And these failures represent only a tiny fraction of what actually happens. Right now, somewhere, a 23-year-old is sitting in a cafe in central London, browsing job listings on his phone. When he reads the phrase, unpredictable work environment, he almost laughs, clicks the apply button, and has no idea what lies ahead for him as a result of that click. They know they want more than what they have in life, and that's enough to get started. But it has never been enough to finish. Yet they will learn what the distance between these two things truly costs, and they will learn it the way everyone in this line of work does, not all at once, but little by little, with each result in countries whose names they do not yet know, for reasons they cannot explain, for people they love but will never fully reach.